So this one is kind of a continuation of coping with trauma, with and whether that's a trauma in the past, but where you're holding it tight in your body so that that thing in the past somehow bothers you in the present. So that's the easiest thing to let go of, when you're physically feeling your way through to your first big opening and awakening, right? In the beginning, you can't have enough faith to have a miraculous transformation. You're going to make yourself work for it. Put in effort. Not just say, miracle time, thank you. Thank you very much. Now I'm doing something else. But I was very good at doing very badly in a hedonistic, self-satisfying way, regardless of what other people think. So that's what we're doing, truly, is deciding how we're going to be thinking from now on. Is our automatic response to a stimulus going to be David, story of David, body of David, energy of David? Well, that's just moving through the dream as an unconscious but sincere actor acting out a storyline. So the question is are we really willing to let that go? Are we really willing to have our lives truly transform and just kind of easily move into a shift into that reality? Well, the initial reaction is to say, well, apparently no, but on looking at it the second time, there's already an opening in process. There's already glimpses of, flashes of the universal you, that core being of amazing grace. It's the core of each of our being, but somehow we don't have any examples of anyone being that very well, least of all us. And yet when you have these epiphanies, when you have these openings, when you have these experiences, and you have an unfiltered experience of whatever it is you are in an eternal sense, in a universal experience of that, well, it takes you out of confusion really quick if you allow yourself to experience that as you're looking at things, experiencing the reality around you as your eternally open and awakened self. And whatever it is that has to be for you, so that there's a divine completion in your return to that native grace and wisdom, and that, glorious presence. And so I'm just suggesting that's what we all used to call home. And experienced ourselves to be that and was realized as that truly. Now we find ourselves here as you and I and the rest of them. We couldn't be more confused about life and what we are, who we are, separate from the life. Who are you beyond life? Because that's what's around forever. You as this life, is going through a process, an evolution, and there's a beginning and an end. But that's not you. That's just a happening within you that you get to fully experience as being real, in all those contextual ways that bring a beautiful experience to an eternal being that can't be affected, So to give an opportunity to omnipotent consciousness to experience limitation, to say, yeah, sure, God, experience this life, enjoy the suffering in it. Enjoy just the torment of what it is to be this human. Maybe there's pure joy and unconditional love in everyone else, but you won't find it here as me. And because I'm not experiencing unconditional love for everything, everywhere, all the time, then how can I know when something or someone is? Because I fooled myself. I've lied to myself to the point that I've forgotten who I am. And so what do you do when you awaken enough to realize that? Now what do you do? How do you atone for betraying everyone, everywhere, all the time? How do you do it? The only way that you can make up for that is to wake up unconditionally. Everywhere, anywhere, all the time. We owe it to ourselves and we owe it to the world. If you can live as the truth that would set you free, and that truth is real, then, don't worry about not fitting in. It's okay to live divinely here, if divine be your truth. It's all right. You're not going to hurt anybody by being the real you. In fact, that'll be a blessing to your own experience of yourself as a human. It'll make it a sublime one. So I've heard. I'm not saying that That's how I experienced myself, because, you know, I'm heaven and hell at the same time. And mistakenly seeing that as a problem. That's the problem. So I saw that as a problem, but heaven and hell is what's real and true about me. About you too. And it's okay when you admit it, when the yin and the yang and the, what's that called? The black and the white with the dot of the other end swirling and dancing around. That's what's real. You know, we're not pretending to be something that doesn't exist. We just stop pretending that the role that we're acting out is the only thing there is. And the role isn't the only thing there is. You can be as awakened as you want as you play the role that you want to play here, you know, through your body. But you can still always hold that role within, you know, a transcendent consciousness where, you know, you get both. You get to experience the joys of having a triumph, of accomplishing something as a human, you know, dealing with doubt and fear and, you know, limitations and struggling through to achieve, you know. That's a pretty interesting experience for an unlimited being to have, and is very valuable to them. Valuable because it's unknowable without the experience of it, and that consciousness that's everywhere all the time has a lot of other things to do than just be fully focused about you. But the universe doesn't need to be only you. You know, the divine celebration of life is going to be a dance. Life plus every other atom in the universe is going to have a celebration, you know, and an awakening. And I guess I should be calling Tahisha, since I was going to do it 5 minutes ago. Let's see. Call Tahisha. See if that works. Is that who I'm supposed to be calling? Why is she not answering the phone? Okay. Remind me in 5 minutes to try again. Why? Okay, Mrs. TJX. Boy, there's so much tension going on in my back.
Hi.
Hey, Miss T.
Hi.
Hey, I am about to have a most delightful conversation with you.
Woohoo.
You know, I hope I'm not overselling myself. Because
I'm excited. I'm ready.
I wouldn't want to disappoint you again. So,
Stop, silly
and
stop.
so it's my intention to both not just delight you, but enlighten you.
Ooh, I like it. The
Simply by
delighten
doing,
enlightened.
simply
The
by
delightener
doing,
enlightener.
and
Delighted.
all of my doing of that consists simply of being in, opening my perception to my wholeness, and
Do you have how are you on speaker or there's some, it's hard to hear you.
oh, well, let's see. Maybe the microphone on this isn't great. Is that better if I put it right next to my
Yeah,
mouth?
that's so much better. Yeah. You're going in
Okay.
and out and then turning into whistles. I was like, ooh, ow, tinnitus. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, now I can hear and connect.
Good. So, what I'd like to do is start off setting a mutual expectation that we're going to stop doing what we normally do and pay particular attention to what we can perceive on a more expanded, eternal and universal way. So as we open up our consciousness beyond our focus on the body and open up enough, remember enough, have an experiential understanding of everything you've ever been, let's say. And why not? Why would you find yourself in a new life form and not decide to take full stock of all of the input that you can bring into the body from whatever universally eternal prehistory to the moment that you had, and take that information in so that you now make choices that result in you receiving what you want and the universe gladly giving it to you without struggling. So, where is our consciousness? Where can we refocus what we're paying attention to so that we newly experience a level of truth of who and what we are, that's beyond the physical? And in that realization, in that experience of who and what you really are, the body is set free to a great degree. And so when we have a disease, when we have an illness, when we simply have a persistent state of consciousness that, is one that's not quite celebration, because we can each choose well enough that in each moment you feel like celebrating, with your friends, with your loved ones, and enjoying seeing your enemy come to their self-realization where they know that no one had to be right in their wrongness. All they had to do was open to each taking responsibility for their state of consciousness in each moment, and knowing that reality and the others, our friends, our families, are all open to us realizing whatever beautiful things it's possible for us to experience here. You know, what's really on the menu here for us as humans? Not in the hereafter, but in the here now. Because I don't think the hereafter appreciates very much us not having a divine celebration before we get there. You know, what else do you...
Sorry, I feel like you're far away from this.
Oh, I was. Again, I straightened my arm out.
I was like, where'd he go? What'd he say? What was that?
So I'd like you to consider just experience what it is to be you in the moment. And just doing that, you know, frees you to a great degree. You know, it settles your emotions and brings you back to, you know, a stable frequency for you. I think I've forgotten where I was going to go forward with that, but
Oh, I like where you're at, though.
getting
Go with that. Let's go.
getting the experience of surrender working is something that glorifies you. You know, something that, you know, what's the right word to make it palatable to you?
What's the what?
The right word that makes it the easiest way for you to affect your divine realization, you know. So
Did you say connect?
no, I'm saying, what would it take for you in terms of you know, how you would open to it, for you to open to a remembrance and experience of your eternal nature, such that all of your seemingly mental and spiritual limitations are just kind of blown up by that, by the clear experience of you, you know, that's not clouded by thoughts and ideas and belief systems and history and cellular memory and instincts and stuff. I'm talking about unfettered Tahitian, not limited by anything, not even her own thoughts that she has in limitation when she's, you know, exploring the depths of, you know, how a consciousness can limit itself. Just because something happened in the past, good or bad, doesn't mean that it will happen in the very next present here that we're beginning to experience. It either happens or not, depending on what we're choosing in that moment. You know, so if you can get quiet and still, I mean, you could, anyone can. when you experience being quiet and still, the universe opens up and starts flowing around you and through you. You know, the universe starts moving through you, I guess is the only way I could really say it accurately. And then that movement and expression, it enlightens me more and more about who and what I really am, apart from who I was told I was by everyone that had a hand in raising me. So our first step is opening up, what we're willing to experience ourselves as, as opposed to, this what's very familiar to us. We've each had many experiences of a momentary experience of, a truly divine expression. So you already have, a touch, a glimpse that reminded you, of what's actually real for you. And now, it seems like it's time for us to truly choose. What are we going to be here from now on if we're saying to ourselves we want to take a quantum leap? We want to have an opening so beautiful that it's transcendent. And if that's possible for anyone ever, then it's up to you as to whether you're willing to experience that or not for yourself. It's up to everybody. That's why Jesus said, greater works than I have done will ye do, because, he got his last test done, and then, got crucified the next day or two after, and so he just ran the process, achieved the, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, he made it to that, and then left and said on his way out, hey, greater works than I've done will ye do, because you're going to wake up way before you die, and so you can do all kinds of crazy, good, fun stuff. So what does it take to open up like Christ did? What do you have to open up to? Do you have to descend below them all, for one? Yeah. Do you have to encompass them all? Everywhere, on all sides, all the time? Yeah. That's when you get to be right, when the entirety of the game's played inside you. So as you experience that, and it's already feeling, quite nice improvement. But just notice that it's your choice in the moment as to whether, something truly divine flows freely through you, as you. How do we open so that the flow of unconditional love is unrestricted through us? How do we open and say, and not be embarrassed? What is it? Why would we shut ourselves off from unconditional love flowing through us, as it's seemingly obvious that that's everyone at their core truth? It's just, what do you want to experience here? And we're all moving in the direction of, hey, we've kind of done everything else, now let's experience our core truth, while we're celebrating the end of the caveman era and the true enlightenment. That opening so profound that everyone, everywhere, chooses to open and be free. And that's for themselves and for others, because if it's only for you and not for others, then you're still playing a game that you lose in, because you're even considering playing that game at all. It makes you a loser. You can't encompass the level of truth that you would need to be mentally and spiritually free here. You can't do it in opposition to anybody. Or else you're opposing yourself. And when you oppose yourself, it knocks you unconscious, and then you're lost. And how do you wake up? You notice what happened. And you make a choice that actually results in you having a different flight path in life now. Something that was unpredictable. A more, not a more reserved you, but a more able you. One that sees clearly, understands easily, and instinctively moves in harmony with life in such a way that your own body chooses health and optimized for longevity in essentially a free state, so what consciousness does it take for your body to choose to optimize itself in health? Because that's what we're dealing with here, is a situation where my consciousness is not such that I can just turn up the radiance a little bit to the point where it becomes an irresistible invitation for you to remember yours and experience it, and thus be free. I'm suggesting that awakening is contagious, and that there's a point where we're not trying to recruit anybody. We're not judging somebody. We're not fearful about whether anybody else does it or not. But we're just open to an actual transformative event that could move in the way something transcendent would. So what do we do? What do we look at? What do we consider? What do we ask ourselves so that transformative state, that opening into, your wisdom and your mastery, where you're able to open and release things in such a way that seemingly miraculous self-healing. Open up so that you have an experiential understanding of that. It's real. And it's there for you to sample just by choosing to and opening into it and relaxing into it and letting it happen through your own body. So, I'm not saying you have to earn a miracle, but you certainly have to open to it. Because if you're closed off from it, that's respected. But once it became required by everybody that everyone be closed off from miraculous experiences, then what happens if you want to bring them back? How do you do it? How do you do it? How do you have a miraculous transformation through your own choosing, not working for it, not being worthy of it, simply by you realizing that you want things to be different in a certain way and have that be real. Opening into the experience of that being real and allowing that transformation to actually move through you. I think that is that's a pretty close approximation as to how it's done if you're in the doing mode of transformation. The best that you could do for yourself. I think that would be about it. So whatever degree that you want to spend on that personal self-mastery, self-improvement mode, you do that until you're done with it, or at least say, well, there must be something else. What is this something else that works? What is this something else that actually helps you embody your mastery? Helps you just ooze wisdom out of every pore. What is it that makes real the eternal you? What makes that eternal you? Your experience of now, of your embodied self. The eternal you is your embodied self. Why are you only the contextual you? The born here and son of this and brother of that and so on and so on, and that's your identity. That's your experience of self that you're believing to be true for you? Not just because everyone else thinks it, but you believe it too? How do you free yourself from that? You know, there's a lot of stillness that has to come into play. Because when the game board changes so much, so fast, then you have to be absolutely still so that it can freely move through you. And in that movement, find an equilibrium so that, you know, people, unconscious people trying to move mountains don't inconvenience everybody. So, for you, you know, for me, what do we have to consider so that we actually put our attention on the right action and the right thought, if there was such a thing that could set you free, a thought? But let's just say there is an experience of a remembering where you go, oh yeah, oh wow, okay, wow, I really went unconscious there for a while. Now I'm back. So I think that's the best way to awaken, just a quick realization that you're now awake and you're back home as yourself. As whatever that self is that, you know, isn't limited by your life story. And so how would any of that or all of that affect healing? You know, healing the body of a disease, of a cancer even. How conscious do you have to be? How awakened? You know, how much of your truth do you have to embody? How authentically do you have to experience yourself as you normally do? And by normally do, I mean whenever you're divinely self-aware in a body. You know, that's what's normal for you. If you check all your other lifetimes, you'll experience most of them having fully awakened, and that's what you do. And we're just in a weird space here, right, where everybody believes that they've never been awakened before, that being awakened isn't normal and natural for us. Because being awakened is normal, it is natural, it's us. And getting twisted into a human condition reality, where that's the only thing that we know, the only thing we feel and experience, and we can only do it from the experience that others have set up the rules as to what's right and true. You know, not reality, but just, you know, this is the story that is right and true, and believe it. So we all went through that, and to awaken from that, you have to disregard it all, because the one thing that you know for sure is that you never experienced anyone that was truly free. So if you're going to bet your life on somebody knowing something, what do you do in a world where nobody knows? where they wouldn't bet their own life on what they could deliver in that experience that a person wants to have of coming back to their truth. You know, there's not a way to deliver that for somebody. It's something that you have to take upon yourself. But only for yourself. Because each body, the consciousness of each body gets to choose for itself. No one wants somebody else to choose for them. So when do we choose? When do we know how to choose? When do we know the right time is to consider the question? Do we have to wait till we're dead to make a decision about this life? I hope not. I guess that's going to be one of the paintings for this session. But what will sober us up enough so that we fully open and experience everything about ourselves that we've ever lost either contact with or an understanding of or a knowing or a remembering, but however it is that we use that to disable ourselves, we take a look at it and handle it. Because there's no longer any good reasons for being diseased. Not now. Not when everybody knows that they have the choice. Everyone now believes that it's possible for somebody to have that kind of transcendent experience that everyone would have to at least grudgingly admit, is possible and happens. So if the world is beginning to open to and admit that miraculous things happen here, now you have kind of an open invitation to let one happen to you, because everybody's saying it's okay now for you to let one happen for you. And how do you make it happen? By letting it happen, by opening and staying open. And when it happens, you stay open and receive it. And you stay open and keep receiving and keep receiving until there's a transformational shift for you. One that when it happens, you're done, in a good way. So, how do we open to that stage of a transformation process where we can actually experience something like that simply by choosing? And because there's that general consensus that it's okay by everybody for you to have that experience. Nobody's gonna think less of you for doing it. And so, if your reality is allowing you to have a miraculous transformation, then who else's permission do you need to have before you let it happen for yourself? Okay, you've got your realities. That means your friends and your family and your enemies and everyone that doesn't know you or care. At the core of each of them, they can't wait to celebrate your self-realization. That the whole universe is on pins and needles, just holding its breath. So, just knowing that you're right there, opening to embrace it all. And everybody's going to say, surprise, it's your birthday, happy birthday. Because that's where you were reborn. And so how do we take those conceptual experiences, then experience them as the energetics of that simply by opening into it? And then how do we continue that until we've achieved kind of a level of mastery to where, if there's something that we want to change about our reality, we just do it and have no resistance to our doing it and have no resistance from others to us doing it, How conscious do we have to be to have the transformational shift that we desire for ourselves? And all we really have to do after that is notice how much we have to open for that to be real and true, and we just keep opening until it is true. So how much more? It doesn't matter. If it's not there yet, you keep opening. And as you keep opening, everything frees itself. Because it's no longer limited by you. Yeah, so if we keep stop enslaving people mentally here, it'll be a lot better celebration as we awaken. At any rate, I'm just rambling on here. Is there anything that you want to focus on specifically? Can we experiment a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so what would it feel like to feel an inner radiance? And then so open up so that you can feel that, so that you get an answer to your question. You have to open up enough to receive that answer, otherwise you don't receive the answer. You have to be open to having a transformative experience, because that new level of truth clarified things to the point where it set you free from a reality that you didn't really know much about, how much it was limiting your experience of the real you here. So how much of the real you would it take for you to be too conscious to have cancer, where it would just transmute away. There's an answer to that, and what I'm suggesting is that it's not a Mount Everest that you have to climb and struggle with and maybe never conquer. It's not about conquering.
I got something immediately when you said it.
What did it feel like, or what did you understand?
It reminded me of when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was younger, I used to go to the ocean. I used to write my problems in the sand, and it would, and I'd watch the waves take it away. And after a while, I was like, you know what? I was like, you know, this writing problems in the sand thing. I was like, you know what? And I was always searching, right? I'm always searching my purpose. What am I doing here? Like, what's the plan?
Yeah.
Right? And so I was like, you know, screw it. I give up. I will be you, and I told the ocean, I will be your expression. And just help me find the courage and clarity to be able to see the right moves and steps.
Okay.
And be able to go down.
Sounds
and
beautiful.
Wait. And where I did that, exactly that spot, I can see it from where I made that when I was 16. When I was 22, I moved into that apartment where I can see where I made that decision or oath or release.
Okay.
That's it for me. That's great.
Yeah.
Because it's not a fad. It's not a thing. It's the exact opposite. It's a release. It's a let go.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't mean don't do anything.
No, of course not.
But it just means, just letting it go. Just writing whatever comes in front and, experiencing the glory of being alive.
And for me,
but once I've got purpose, so I will see the, direction that it would be best for me, to follow through on my goals.
Yeah, yes. And so what I was suggesting in this moment was to have an experience of this moment of something that we haven't experienced before that we want to. So what if we just be inwardly still and know that when we come together on the phone, that our intention is to be as awakened as we can, because there's going to be some fun interaction, and the result of it is an increased amount of personal freedom, from greater knowing and understanding and experiencing of reality. And so, I think it's necessary to explore here our experience of ourselves in such a way that we have a quick and accurate understanding of, how to create reality for ourselves here. So notice how much you have to open to be beyond all those questions and considering all those circumstances, because you've transcended the need to consider those things. Where do we automatically allow life to flow through us, and in harmony with us? in celebration with us. That's something that if we focus on it and open into it, we experience it. But we can't be complaining about other people affecting our ability to do that. Go where you're wanted. Talk with the people who are excited afterwards that they had another opportunity to have a fun, interesting, lovely conversation with you. I've seen how people react to you that are delighted with you when you're being so open with them that they can't help but open and celebrate life with you. So maybe it takes allowing that to be more naturally organic for you, to where you don't have to think about it or put effort in on it. It's just who you are.
Oh, that's definitely just who I
Yeah, yeah.
I've done too much that way, and I need to do less of that.
Well, I certainly need.
I do too much.
I certainly could
That's why I
enjoy
think I
more.
like hanging out with Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
She's just chill. She doesn't give a fuck.
Mm.
She doesn't give a fuck how you think about it.
Well,
Yeah.
all I know is
Anyway.
I'm feeling considerably better than I was a half hour ago.
Oh, good.
So
Me too.
and that's the purpose of the conversation, is to stimulate you one way or another with words and ideas and concepts to the point where you say, okay, I'm for myself being healthy and free, and so I'm being still, I'm opening up and allowing it to happen to me right now. Because I believe that's what it takes. You have to let it happen right now, because that's the only space that we control. We don't control the past, we don't control the future, we only control the now. So open and be free now. Yeah, and open and be healed now. Now's the only time that's really important, frankly. So how does a cosmic consciousness, Christ conscious, Buddha conscious, awakening happen to someone? Well, it can't be forced on them, and it can't be something that isn't true. It has to be something that's noticed and remembered and reintegrated into what's being paid attention to. Whatever your state of consciousness is going to notice that every object of reality is infused with creator consciousness that supports everything, that loves everything. And if you can notice that in everyone, you're also noticing it in yourself, and it's become your reality, and it's true. And that's seems to me to be what Christ did, and that is how you would do the same thing if that's the experience you want to have. Well, I'm not sure what I would say to wrap this up, but let me take a look and see. I believe in miracles, and I believe in you. And I believe that you're here to awaken and be free. And share that reality with me. And everyone else too, of course, but it's a reality that is especially meaningful for me to experience. And I look forward to that. And I know that most of it is my surrendering to have that experience, not yours. I think you would naturally just flow that direction yourself. So as I open to whatever's transcendent and beautiful to experience, is there anything that we need to do besides open to experiencing that, for that to be true? It might be as easy as that, but you don't know until you try, by not trying, by just being and opening and saying yes and letting it happen. Allow the divine to be free in you by doing nothing to stop. You don't have to do God's work for him or for her. You know, and you prove that to yourself by stopping everything and being still. And paying attention, noticing if there's anything such as a God that needs or wants you to do anything. And if there is something, then wonderful. And if there isn't, then you've considered widely enough every subject and possibility that now you get to choose to which one to make real for yourself. But if I were you, I would choose one that leaves you in a state where you can consciously choose your reality. And we all can, but you actually have to open and receive the chase, the open and receive the change that happens when you allow something miraculous to happen. And in this case, with you, you know, we know what that is, and I wonder how free we could be in letting all of that go. Doing nothing about supporting it as a current experience anymore. It already looks like that's in the past. So let's leave it there. Wow, it seems like it's so easy for us to bind ourselves up and obligate ourselves and you know, kind of enslave ourselves. And so it's more than just physical healing. There's a necessity to stay awakened. To remember in each moment that it's a new reality for you than it was 5 seconds ago, 10 seconds ago, an hour ago, and so on. Because awakening, supposedly, is instantaneous. But it takes a continued yes to continuing that experience in order for a transformative shift to occur. Because if it just flashes on one time for 1 second, then what was it really? It wasn't something that was supposed to be more than that, or somebody would have been choosing for it to be more than that. The question is what do we choose? What do we really want for ourselves? What sort of identity is possible for us? If we get to choose, what's our potential here? When you ask the question, and if you open to receive the answer, and you have to keep opening and opening and opening, because the answer feels everything in you as far as you open, and so it looks like maybe you have to open infinitely to understand your own universal nature. But in doing that, there's a time where you're in your mastery, where just simply what you choose to pay attention to and how you choose to pay attention to it could just automatically heal something for someone. And in this case, something for you. So what kind of consciousness does it take for me to inspire you to be in a state where you could receive a miracle? You have to choose for it. And the cool thing will be that when it works, everybody's having fun. Nobody's betting against anyone being successful in being a better version of themselves. If we just have that expectation of ourselves, that each person that we interact with expects us to be a better version of ourselves, not in judgment, but just so that they can have a better time with you and you can have a better time with them. So that the moments that you share with other people are ones that are just delightful, on both sides. And why not that? Why not that for you? And I don't know the why not, and I don't know if the why not matters. I'd just like you to be free. in every way. Free from disease, free from cancer, free from trauma, free from any kind of suppression other than the kind that causes you to remember and wake up right away, and each time you come back here, you come back fully armed, so to speak. You're not here to learn anything. You're here to have another day in the sun here, where you love what you're doing, whatever it is. I think for some people that's a tough thing to take. In other words, to know that somebody else is having that experience for themselves and you're not, or I'm not. Well, I'm experiencing, as I say the things and then open to experience them, I kind of get carried away. So I think we're I was a little tired tonight, and so I did. It was a little bit different tonight, but I think still it's something that if you flow with, will further your opening, which will, yeah, at any rate.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say?
No, just, no, nothing in words.
No.
Nothing in words.
Okay,
Keep it all away.
so yeah,
But feel it.
bubble up.
I'm doing it now.
There. Okay. Yeah, I got it. I should have been checking in on you energetically instead of asking you.
And and letting go now.
Yeah.
And I even wrote it down. I wrote down the few on the stuff to compare.
Nice. Well, it feels better. You feel better already.
I do. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then the other good nugget was that I had to write down. I added the first word, but basically it was allow my body choose optimization of health. I wrote it in my own, but that's what
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so,
beautiful.
Yeah. It's not something I need to do.
No, it'll do it on its own as soon as you stop saying no.
Yep. It's the same thing with the pooing thing. Everyone tries to push, and all you need to do is relax. The moment you relax your stomach, it does it all on it by itself. You breathe, and it does it all by itself. The same with that. So yeah, it's great.
Well, as you're saying that, I'm diving deeper into that. So keep going with that some more.
Well, I mean, that's I'm chewing on that. I'm gonna do that every day. I'm gonna look at that. So it's the top of my. I even put it on my to-do list. I was like, no, that seems to be the top. So just little, little reminder. And I actually need to do the right now.
Yeah.
And those are just little triggers to remind me of what you said. So
Excellent.
great.
Excellent. Well, thanks.
Maybe just
Thanks for giving me the time tonight, and I apologize for being a more tired version of myself tonight. But
that's okay. I appreciate the effort, even though you were tired.
so
Thank you.
yeah, a couple of
Got a lot out of it. It's great things. Big
well,
things.
thank
big.
you. So couple of days we do another one.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Hey.
Okay. Yeah.
Say goodnight to your mom.
Awesome. I will
Okay.
for sure.
Good night.
Yay. Okay. Sweet dreams. Have a
Bye.
great trip.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. I literally can't open my eyes. But I can open my heart a little bit and open my mind up a little bit. Hmm. Well, I guess I'm going to put an end to this. I was thinking I was going to come up with something clever at the end of it. The only thing I can say is, now that you know it's your choice to wake up, do it and go do something else. Don't come back here again.